Ever feel like we're witnessing the future being built right in front of us? I'm
Right.
talking about AI, obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
But get this, and this is a real head scratcher. Did you know that this whole AI explosion is kinda, sorta, bringing nuclear power back from the dead?
It's strange how that works, right?
Yeah, and it's not some far-off sci-fi thing either. It's happening right now.
Right now, yep,
And it affects everyone, believe me.
it really does.
So today, we're going deep, and I mean deep, into how these tech giants are dealing with AI's insatiable, and I mean, this thing is starving for energy, and the ripple effects it's having on, well, everything.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, isn't it? You have this industry that's all about pushing the limits of what technology can do.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're turning to what some might call a power source that many people thought was, well, over.
Right. Like finding out your fancy, futuristic, self-driving car is powered by a coal-fired steam engine.
Exactly. It's a real head scratcher.
So we get that AI is powerful, but what makes it such an energy hog in the first place?
Well, think about it like this. AI, especially the kind they use for machine learning, is constantly, and I mean 2047, crunching insane amounts of data.
Insane in like a good way, or?
Insane in like a we can't even fathom how much data kind of way. It's like mountains and mountains of the stuff constantly being analyzed. And all that data processing takes place in data centers, those massive server farms that are basically the backbone of the digital world. And those centers, they use a ton of energy.
And that energy consumption is only going to increase as AI gets more, well, advanced, right? It's not like our appetite for AI is going to shrink anytime soon.
Exactly. Some analysts over at Citi, they're predicting that by 2030, just the data centers here in the U.S., just the U.S. alone, could eat up something like 10.9% of the entire nation's electricity.
I know, right?
That's more than double what they're using today.
Wow. So to put that in maybe a little more understandable terms, that's like, what, enough to power every gaming PC, every smart refrigerator, every single self-driving car in the country, and still have some juice left over.
Pretty much. And that's just one industry.
10.9%.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's a little more than concerning. No wonder those tech companies are scrambling for solutions, any solution.
Yeah, they're definitely feeling the pressure.
So how does nuclear energy fit into all of this?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Lay it on me.
So solar and wind power, those are obviously super important for, a greener future. We all know that. But here's the thing. They're kind of at the mercy of, well, Mother Nature.
You can't have a solar-powered data center if the sun isn't shining, right?
Exactly.
And good luck powering anything with a wind turbine when the air is still.
Exactly. But nuclear power, on the other hand, now that's a different story. It doesn't care if it's cloudy or if the wind isn't blowing. Nuclear power offers a steady, reliable, always-on stream of energy no matter what's going on outside. Rain or shine, that power just keeps flowing.
So it's like the tortoise and the hare of the energy world. Renewables are like the hare. They can be fast, they can be efficient, but then they get tired or distracted.
I like that. Yeah, good analogy.
But nuclear, that's the tortoise. It just keeps chugging along, slow and steady, providing that reliable, always-on energy that AI desperately needs.
That's a great way to put it. And the really wild part is that it's not just about the reliability factor.
Oh,
Yeah, nuclear power, it's also incredibly energy dense.
right.
So you compare a nuclear power plant to a solar farm or a wind farm of the same size, and the nuclear plant is going to produce way, way more electricity.
Which is critical when you're talking about powering something
Ex-
as massive and power-hungry as a data center.
Mm.
We're not talking about just keeping the lights on here.
Oh, no, not at all.
We're talking about an insane amount of electricity.
Insane amounts, yes.
So it's not just about being green. It's about finding energy sources that can actually, keep up with the demands of the AI age.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
about finding sustainable energy sources that can actually power the future we're building. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen.
It's like the tech world is finally realizing that to build the future, they need a power source that can actually handle it. And increasingly, they're coming to the conclusion that nuclear power might just be the answer.
They just might be right.
So speaking of answers, what are these tech giants actually doing? Are they really out there building nuclear reactors in their backyards?
Not quite in their backyards, but they are making some strategic moves in the nuclear space, and some of their plans are bolder than others.
Now you've got me intrigued. So who wants to go first? Microsoft, Google, Amazon.
Let's start with Google. They're always talking about sustainability, or
Always. They've got whole divisions dedicated to it.
we'll get this. They're going all in on something called SMRs.
SMRs. What in the world is an SMR?
Small modular reactors, but you can just call them SMRs. Everyone else does.
Okay, so what are they? Tiny nuclear reactors.
Kind of. Imagine instead of those massive nuclear power plants we're all used to seeing, you have these smaller, more compact reactors.
Okay, I'm picturing something out of a sci-fi movie here.
Right. But that's the beauty of it. These SMRs, they're designed to be built off-site, like in a factory, and then they're basically shipped out and, plugged in wherever you need them.
So it's like the difference between building a custom house from scratch and just ordering one of those prefabricated modular homes.
Perfect analogy. That's exactly it. And because they're, smaller and more standardized, they're potentially much cheaper and faster to build.
So more bang for your buck and quicker deployment. I can see why Google might be interested.
Exactly. And get this, Google's not messing around. They've teamed up with this company, Kairos Power, and they're planning to get a whopping 500 megawatts of power from these SMRs by 2035.
500 megawatts. That sounds like a lot.
It is. We're talking enough juice to power a small city, all coming from these little reactors.
Wow, that's ambitious.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's actually a really big deal because it's the first agreement for multiple deployments of SMRs in the U.S. So Google's kind of a trailblazer here.
It's like they're sending a signal to the rest of the tech world.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, hey, we're serious about this whole nuclear thing. This is the future.
That's huge. It sounds like Google's really putting their, shall we say, energy where their mouth is, both in terms of, developing AI and finding ways to power it sustainably.
Right.
But Google's not the only player in this game, right? What about the other big tech companies? Are they joining the nuclear party?
Oh, absolutely. Microsoft, for example, they're taking a slightly different approach.
Oh, how so?
Well, remember a few minutes ago when we were talking about bold moves?
Yeah, those were your words, not mine.
Well, Microsoft's about to take the cake. They're partnering up with Constellation Energy. And get this, they're going to be getting power from. Are you ready for it?
Hit me.
3 Mile Island.
Wait, hold on. 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
As in that 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
The one that had, that little incident back in the 70s.
The one and only.
Talk about a bold move.
Yeah.
That's like trying to sell, I don't know, fire extinguishers in a fireworks factory.
Right. But here's the thing, and this is important. Microsoft isn't getting power from the reactor that had the accident. They're partnering with Constellation Energy to restart the second reactor at 3 Mile Island, the one that was unaffected by the incident and actually has a really good safety record.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
Right. That second reactor, it was actually shut down fairly recently, back in 2019.
So they're not just embracing nuclear power, they're basically tackling the stigma head on.
You got it. They're basically saying, hey, we believe in this technology, we think it has a future, and we're willing to put our money where our mouth is.
Which, let's be honest, knowing Microsoft is not something they do lightly.
Not at all.
This is a company that analyzes every single decision to death.
They're all about data, right?
Exactly. So if they're willing to take this risk to dive headfirst into the nuclear pool, it really makes you wonder if the tide is turning for nuclear. But we've talked about Google, we've talked about Microsoft. What about the 800-pound gorilla in the room? What about Amazon? They always seem to do their own thing. What's their play in this whole energy game?
Leave it to Amazon to chart their own course, right? Instead of partnering up with a nuclear company directly, they're taking a more, shall we say, hands-on approach.
Well, are they building their own reactors now?
Not quite, but it's almost as bold. They're dropping a cool $650 million to build their newest data center right next door to an existing power plant run by Talon Energy.
So they're literally becoming next-door neighbors with a power plant.
Pretty much.
That's some strategic real estate right there. That's the advantage of being that close to the power source.
Well, for starters, it means they get to bypass the power grid, which can be a little unreliable at times, especially as the demand for electricity keeps going up.
Makes sense.
It's all about ensuring a steady, consistent flow of energy to those data centers. And what better way to do that than to be plugged directly into the source?
Can't argue with that logic. Like having your own private gas station right next to your house.
Exactly. Plus, it probably saves them a ton of money on transmission fees.
Talk about cutting costs. So let's recap, okay?
Yeah.
We've got Google going for those smaller, more adaptable SMRs. We've got Microsoft confronting the stigma head-on at 3 Mile Island. And we've got Amazon playing the real estate game to secure direct access to that sweet, sweet energy. It's like these tech giants aren't just thinking about going green. They're laser-focused on energy security and reliability for their AI operations. Because let's be real, without a reliable energy supply, the whole AI revolution it just grinds to a halt.
You're 100% right. They realize that AI is becoming more and more integrated into every single aspect of our lives, and we rely on it more and more every day, so a steady, robust energy supply, it's not optional anymore. It's absolutely essential.
And it sounds like nuclear power is stepping up to the plate, ready to hit a home run, which has got to be music to the ears of the nuclear energy industry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, it's been a rough couple of decades for those guys.
It has. But this renewed interest from big tech, it's like a breath of fresh air for the nuclear sector. We're seeing companies like Vistracore, Constellation Energy, Talon Energy, all these players in the nuclear space, they're experiencing massive growth. Their stock prices are through the roof.
Yeah. Like, how much growth are we talking?
Vistracore, their stock has gone up something like 250% this year alone.
250%. Hold on. I need to call my broker. Forget AI. I'm investing in nuclear. But seriously, that kind of growth, it's hard to ignore. It really seems like this isn't just a temporary blip on the radar. This is like a seismic shift, a potential turning point for the entire nuclear industry.
It really does feel that way. And it goes beyond just those companies that are, directly involved in generating power. There are other players in this nuclear renaissance that are worth taking a look at.
Like who? Give me a name.
Have you ever heard of GE Vernova?
GE Vernova. Yeah, that does ring a bell, actually.
Yeah.
Don't they do a lot of work in renewable energy?
You're right, yeah. They're a spinoff from good old General Electric, and they are super into wind turbines, gas turbines, all that good stuff.
Right. I knew I'd heard of them.
But here's what's really interesting about them, and this is kind of a big deal. They're also pretty deeply rooted in the nuclear sector, too.
Oh, really? I didn't realize.
Yep. Specifically through a division of their company called GE Hitachi Nuclear Energy. They've got their fingers in a lot of pies, it seems.
So are they, like, hedging their bets, playing both sides of the energy field, so to speak?
It's a smart strategy, if you ask me.
Yeah, for sure. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Exactly. That's the name of the game these days. They're in a good position no matter what happens in the energy market. And one of their most exciting projects is something called the BWRX 300.
The what?
BWRX 300.
The BWRX 300. Catchy name.
Yeah, I know, right? Rolls right off the tongue. It's another SMR, actually, a small modular reactor, but this one's different. It's like the next generation, super cutting edge.
So even more advanced than the ones Google's investing in?
Potentially, yeah. And GE Vernova is putting a lot of stock in it, literally and figuratively. They see SMRs as a key part of the future of nuclear energy.
Interesting. And what's their CEO got to say about all this? Is he all aboard the nuclear train, or is this just a little side project for them?
Oh, he is all in on nuclear. He was giving a talk recently, and he flat out said, we're talking gigawatts upon gigawatts of new nuclear capacity being added every year. That's not someone who's just dipping their toes in the water,
Wow, gigawatts upon gigawatts, that's a lot of power. Okay, you convinced me. Nuclear power is back, baby. But hold on a second. It's not just about building these reactors right. Don't you need, like, uranium to make them work? Where are they going to get enough uranium to power all these fancy new reactors?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? You can build all the reactors you want, but if you don't have the fuel to run them, you're dead in the water. And sourcing that fuel responsibly, well, that's a whole other can of worms.
So where does GE Vernova stand on the whole uranium thing? Are they just hoping for the best?
Nope, not at all. They're actually tackling this head on. They've teamed up with the U.S. Department of Energy on a project to, and this is a mouthful, secure a domestic supply of ALEU.
Holy you. Okay, now you've lost me. What in the world is HALEU?
Sorry, acronyms. I know, the bane of our existence. AALE stands for High Assay Low Enriched Uranium.
Okay. And what makes HEU so special?
Well, for starters, it's a much more efficient type of nuclear fuel, and you can use it to power those next-gen reactors, like those SMRs we were just talking about.
So HALEU is like the premium gas you put in a high-performance sports car.
Exactly. And by partnering with the Department of Energy, GE Vernova, they're not just trying to secure a reliable source of fuel, they're also trying to make sure that the U.S. is at the forefront of this new nuclear energy landscape.
Smart move. So they're covering all their bases, making sure they have the tech and the fuel to make it all work. And what's Wall Street think of all this?
No, Wall Street is paying attention, that's for sure. Some analysts are predicting that GE Vernova's earnings could double from 2024 to 2025.
Double. That's insane.
And Vistracore, the company we talked about earlier with that crazy stock surge, analysts are still bullish on them too. Some are even giving them a strong buy rating, which in Wall Street terms is basically like saying, get in on this now before it's too late.
Man, I'm telling you, this whole AI thing, it's like a gold rush for the nuclear industry. Okay, so let's take a step back and connect the dots here. We've got AI driving up the demand for energy like we've never seen before. We've got these tech giants, the biggest players in the world, embracing nuclear power as the solution. And we've got energy companies raking in the profits as a result. It's like the perfect storm for a nuclear comeback tour.
It really is amazing how this has all come together, right? Who would have thought? I mean, for years it seemed like nuclear was on the way out.
Yeah, I remember when everyone thought solar and wind were going to take over the world.
Me too. But I think this just goes to show that innovation, it often comes from the most unexpected places. We might think we have all the answers, but then boom, something like this happens and it completely changes the game.
Totally. It's a good reminder to never underestimate the power of, well, power, I guess.
Right. I mean, who knew that the future of technology might actually be powered by a source that everyone thought was a relic of the past?
It's a crazy world we live in. Well, on that note, we're going to have to wrap things up. But before we go, we'll leave you with this thought. As AI gets more sophisticated, more powerful, and its thirst for energy continues to grow, how are we going to meet those demands and make sure we're doing it sustainably? That's the million-dollar question. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the wild world of AI, energy, and the surprising return of nuclear power. We'll catch you next time.